Welcome to the Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast, where we discuss news, reviews, and all things video games with your hosts, the OG Leo Holly, the overachiever Mark Lombardi, and Mr. Contradiction himself, Matt Harms. Stay tuned for ways to connect with the G3 community, contribute to the show, or tell us about your greatest gaming experiences. Now, let's get to the show.
Greetings, gamers, and welcome back to the G3 podcast. You're here listening to episode 30, and you've got at least two of the three, so, we won't call it a full course meal, but we should give you enough to fill your gaming appetite today. You got known as Ice on all things gaming and social media, and joining me today is the one, the only, Mr. MowThemDown, aka Matt. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy to be here. Sorry that I missed the last one, but yeah, let's go ahead and get on into the news.
You're damn right you're sorry, and that shame just keeps going around because now Mark is feeling it. Apparently his family is a higher priority than being on the show. We kid. But so as usual, we're going to go ahead and talk about news, and then we're going to talk about the biggest thing that came up this week, that being the PlayStation State of Play and our thoughts on it. So coming right off the bat, something we didn't make mention of last week, but we think it's fair to make mention of a belated Happy International Women's Day to all of the female types out there. So that was on March 7th of this week, celebrating the history and culture around women. And so we celebrate women, and particularly women in gaming. So, we thought it'd be nice to go ahead and just put a little shout out there for all the ladies. We also had Mario Day, which was just this past couple days on March 10th. What was that? That was Thursday. And so if you're not familiar with how that works out, MAR, that being March, and the number 10, put those together, and you have what generically kind of looks like Mario. Matt, is that one totally disturbing you? The fact that people couldn't put two and two together, that it was Mario Day by doing that?
No, that was just a funny explanation, but yeah.
Well, it's quite literally what it is. So.
Did you? Well, no, yeah, I get that. Did you celebrate the Mario Day?
I did. I went ahead and I played a bit on my Switch, and I actually went ahead and took the opportunity to go ahead and buy the game that they had. Oh gosh, was it last year now, or was it even before that? Oh my God, I have to pull it up to remember what I bought. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. So that one I found was pretty interesting when they announced it. Truth be told, Super Mario 3D World was essentially a port over to the Switch, but then the Bowser's Fury is like a whole new segment that they added on there. So there was, I guess, a little bit of contention and talk in the gaming sphere about like, hey, is this worth a full price point? Because it's a port plus, maybe an expansion, if you will, or something different. I haven't got to try it out yet, but I'm looking forward to. But kind of like Mark said last week, I own most of the Nintendo first party stuff aside from the stuff I'm not interested in, that being like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. That's a mouthful of a title. But for anyone that didn't catch it, you can still catch it. The Mario Day sales go on until the 13th of this month and include Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, which is another port coming over from the Wii U. There are expansions as well as the proper Luigi's Mansion 3, Yoshi's Crafted World, which I say is a great game, and then Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and as I mentioned, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Matt, are any of these titles enticing you enough to finally pick up a Switch?
I mean, probably not any of the big sale titles, but I don't know, man. I'm hearing real good things about that triangle strategy, so wait to see Mark's review. But
yeah, I went ahead and I downloaded the demo for that, and truth be told, I wanted to get a chance to play that this week just so I could rub it in your face that I played it, but I didn't get a chance to do that. I did, however, play through the available demo for Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It was how can it's what I expected of a Kirby game. It was very well paced. It wasn't super action packed, but it was action packed enough that it kept me wanting more. So I will probably go ahead because Kirby, in a really weird way, I actually kind of prefer Kirby over, let's say, Zelda as one of the like Nintendo secondary characters, if you will. Yeah, I know. So I'll probably get my hands on the full purchase, the pre-order for Kirby. But in other pre-order style news, Rockstar has confirmed that GTA 5, the next gen, new gen, whatever we're calling them,
The
upgrades.
release.
Yeah, literally a 2013 release that literally 10 years later is getting re-released.
I mean, Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly. But so it's going to get re-released on PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles. And so something of interest, pulling this out of VGC, we found that, or at least it's being reported, that there's actually a significant price difference between the two. So on PS5, if you were to go ahead and pre-order this upgrade, it's about 75% off, whereas on the Xbox Series consoles, it is 50% off. So some of this is basically in line with the previous PlayStation promotion that they had, talking about getting GTA Online for free on the PlayStation consoles. But then there's also some concern there, or some dichotomy talking about, okay, well, is it for just the story version of the game or the full version of the game? What we're seeing right now, the story mode full price is for $40 on PS5 and Series X. But then again, if you just want the story mode on PS5, it's looking like $10, or you get GTA Online for free. And then on the Series consoles, it is $20 for story mode, and then another $10 for GTA Online. So, I mean, PlayStation got a pretty good deal here, I guess, with whatever partnership they had. That being said, cool. Why do we want to go ahead and get this upgrade? So, according to Rockstar, quote, these new versions also offer across-the-board improvements, including faster load times, increased population and traffic variety, increased vegetation density, improved lighting quality across shadows, water reflections, and other elements, plus improved anti-aliasing, motion blur, highly detailed new explosions, fire, and much more, end quote. They also go on to say that you're going to have all the niceties that you would have on the PlayStation console, being for the DualSense controller, haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, which that sounds pretty cool. And then you've got the new Tempest 3D positioning audio on PlayStation 5, as well as spatial sound on Series X. So, Matt, what did we say? 2013 release, re-released in 2023 here for the new gen. Are you going to go ahead and drop some dollars on this?
I mean, yeah, probably. Really, like the story mode and that was very fun. GTA Online was fun for a little bit. We all kind of fell out of that, but I was kind of drooling over the graphic comparison, stills that they had put up the other day. So, yeah, I'll probably end up checking it out for real.
Yeah, and so when we're talking about the graphics, where was that note? So they're going to actually have three fidelity modes, which is kind of interesting. So one is being performance, so likely to have a little bit lower fidelity for higher frame rate. You're also going to have performance RT. So when we talk about the spatial reflections and ray tracing and whatnot. And then the third is going to be a hybrid of the first two. So I think we're seeing that a couple more. I want to say that they had something akin to that in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how quickly people bite off on it. The sad part is, of course, the more that we go ahead and we buy into GTA 5 probably is only inevitably delaying GTA 6, or hopefully the more likely is us going ahead and buying into this upgrade is going to go ahead and help fund the R&D and the development of GTA 6.
Bit of both.
Best of both worlds, hopefully. But you know who had the best of all worlds essentially last year was Microsoft. specifically because according to Metacritic, Metacritic hosted their annual game publisher rankings, and this is the 12th year that they've done it. And Microsoft came out as the number one game publisher for 2021. So why does this matter? So we have used Metacritic before on the show because they're kind of neutral in the sense that they take industry scores for games and whatnot, and they take user scores for games. But how do they base this on? Well, first and foremost, the average Metascore for all games released in 2021. So they take the average. The second way that they consider it is the percent of scored products with good reviews. And so by their standards, we've said before that like 80, 85, their ideal good review is at least 75. The percentage of scored products with bad reviews, so by comparison, they consider 49 or lower being a bad review. So they kind of look at that 75 versus 49. And then last but not least, the number of great titles, that being a 90 or higher, listed on Metacritic. So any games that the publishers put out, they're held up to those four criteria, and that's how they go ahead and determine who's the number one. So, I mean, we talked about it last year that Microsoft had a pretty good year by way of game releases. Maybe not, you had, hit the ball out of the park kind of deal by way of like everything is a 10 across the board, but they had some pretty good stuff. You had Forza Horizon 5 that had a really good score. I want to say, I mean, if I was to look that up right now, it had a good score. You had a lot of other games like The Ascent and 12 Minutes that came in and had some decent scores. I'm like typing in Ascent and Forza at the same time here. While I go ahead and look up some of this to talk about here, Matt, did this surprise you at all that Microsoft came out on top for publishers?
Honestly, it's hard for me to say. It maybe did surprise me a little bit. But they've had a pretty good year of releases. I do think the Game Pass thing really helps them a lot in that regard. Obviously, easy, relatively cheap access, whatever, to these titles is gonna, I would imagine, at least somewhat boost the public perception. But yeah, I mean they've released some solid titles. Admittedly, I think with Forza, like, that's a solid title, but it is one of those things where it's like it's just the same title that they released with the last one, just slightly shinier graphics and everything. Yeah, I mean they've been doing well. Hopefully they can keep it going. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and so just taking that opportunity there, I took a look and we saw last year that Halo Infinite came out with an 87. So, while that didn't make the cut for any of the annual awards, or at least the game awards, we saw it won some awards with the DICE Awards. That's still something when they consider it a great score, right? When we take a look at the Microsoft Flight Simulator, yes, this was a prior release, but to release it onto the Xbox Series, particularly the Series X, it got a 90 Metacritic score, so some pretty high regards. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that thing just keeps ticking up in the score because they just
now it's
not
cloud
something
streaming or whatever.
yeah, not something that we had formally announced on the show, but yeah, they announced that cloud streaming was available, and we'll talk about that in a brief second. And then, yeah, we also mentioned Forza Horizon 5 that came out with a Metascore of 92. So, I mean, just those three alone, we're not even talking about any of the other stuff that they brought in, be it the Psychonauts 2 or anything
I
like
was
that.
just about to say Psychonauts 2 also.
Yeah, I mean, they had some good games. So,
Yeah.
I think it's deservedly so. And yeah, as long as they go ahead and keep creating availability to the consumer to access their stuff that wouldn't otherwise be accessible, that being the example we just gave with Microsoft Flight Simulator via the cloud. I think they have a win in as far as usability and approachability for the consumer. Did you get to try out the cloud version of Flight Simulator? Because I know you were really into the simulator itself.
I have not, admittedly. Now that I can just play it on the console, I'm not super sure that I'm really trying to take the plunge into the cloud streaming version. I have seen people talking about playing it and they're enjoying it. It's apparently a relatively solid experience. So my original plan, if I couldn't have got the Series console, was, well, maybe I could stream it on my One X, and apparently that works fairly well for people. But my main cloud streaming is just from my phone, and although you can apparently do that, I don't know that I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, great insofar as letting people get their hands on the stuff, but at the same
Yeah.
token, like you need to get your hands on the stuff. Like there's way too many controls. Just my experience, I did actually go ahead and boot up Flight Sim via the cloud, via my Xbox Series X, and graphically you could tell it was cloud. It wasn't like the highest
Yeah,
fidelity,
it's
but that
definitely a
being
downgrade
said,
in that regard.
that
Yeah.
being said, it wasn't something like super noticeable where it detracted from my experience. What honestly detracted more so, which we talked about in chat before, is having to use the controller vice using either my flight stick or keyboard mouse. Like there's just way too many things, and for some reason, even
Yeah,
even
it's a little hardcore.
even being a pilot, like I have a hard time trying to understand. Like, wait, what do they have for rudder, and what's this? And it's a
Yeah.
whole different animal. But I thought it was a good experience and overall, and so the fact that people go ahead and have access to use it via the cloud is pretty cool. What we'll also hopefully see some more of via cloud or on the console or even on PC. Xbox has announced this coming out of, or at least we're sourcing this from IGN, that Xbox announced they're going to have an indie showcase next week. So coming up on March 16th, Xbox is due to showcase some games. They've been a bit mum on it, but when we talk about, hey, ID at Xbox, you find things like what would have previously been like a Psychonauts 2. Now it's under the full banner of Xbox, but think 12 minutes, think The Ascent, think the game I'm looking forward to, which hopefully is still slated for this year, Replaced. They went ahead and they showed quite a few of their indie titles last year that we haven't quite seen yet. So hopefully we'll go ahead and get to see something. Is there anything that you're in particular looking for out of this one, Matt?
Not that I'm like waiting to see, but I'm just kind of curious to see what they'll actually, have to showcase. Always, always, trying to look out for some cool new indie games that'll offer you a nice new experience for maybe a lesser dollar value.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way of looking at it, right? The affordability of the indie games, but also keeping in mind that the indie games actually help push a lot of mechanics forward.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that's where you can try out unique stuff.
I'm pretty sure we could otherwise argue that your game of the year last year was, in contextual sense, an indie game, right? With It Takes Two, even though it
I
was
mean,
under the EA originals.
yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah, they're still very heavily tied in with EA, but I still kind of agree. I mean, it's got more of a indie feel, right? Or we'll call it like maybe a double A title or something. But yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully everyone can take a look at that showcase coming out next week on the 16th, and then hopefully get their hands on the game shortly after. But hopefully through legit means, unlike what we're hearing potentially out of Russia. Again, this news getting sourced from IGN, that the Russian Ministry of Economic Development has proposed relaxing privacy legislation. So folks can basically get to play games and watch movies and stuff. Like the whole concept of what's going down. So again, we're not trying to make light of things, but numbers and droves of countries around the world are trying to essentially condemn Russia, specifically the Russian government, for their actions with what's going on in Ukraine, and have gone ahead. We just saw Nintendo was one of the latest ones that went ahead and pulled all their sales and stores and whatnot from Russia. And now this is unfortunate, the fact that the Russian government is basically saying, you know what, we don't care. We don't have any respect for intellectual property. However our people want to get to it, they're going to get to it, because this is not going to slow us down. When, not to go down that road, but politically, that's probably exactly the point of why some of these sanctions are meant to affect the Russian people, so that they actually stand up to the government and say, hey, stop doing this dumb shit that's going on in Ukraine. It's unfortunate. Piracy is not, this is not the first instance of piracy that we've ever seen when it comes to the gaming sphere. Assuredly, it won't be the last. How does this one sit with you, Matt. Do you feel like in Russia games pirate you?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, things like this are the reason, well, part of the reason, I guess, that the piracy exists, excuse me, for any kind of, intellectual property kind of content like this. I don't know. Certainly understand, the show of support, trying to, increase, I guess, sanctioning and whatever against Russia to try and show our displeasure. But, at the same time, I mean, the Russian people, if they're not necessarily in support of it, I mean, you're cutting them off from the things they want to access and enjoy. I, I guess I can't necessarily blame them for wanting to try and find a way around that. But yeah, complicated situation. Very interesting to see the government just be like, yeah, just go ahead and pirate it. But they're pretty much just flagrantly disregarding any kind of etiquette, I guess, at this point. So yeah, maybe I guess not so shocking, just an interesting, unique thing to see come out of a government release.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, a lot of it can be conjecture, right? But presumably, this is going to involve a lot more Russian involvement in the dark web, which, there's been some suspicion of the Russian government playing a big part of that in the past with viral attacks and whatnot. So I would imagine, though, that the world community is also kind of cracked down on the dark web and illegal distribution, sale of intellectual property, goods, whatever. So we'll see what comes of it. Again, it's really unfortunate that any of this is happening to begin with, and that
Agreed.
people across the world are suffering as a result of it, whether it be, abroad by not having access to their stuff, or even here in the U.S., more of a first world problem. But we're having issues with stupid things like gas prices going up and whatnot. But all in the name, I suppose, of peace and trying to have some peace. But what is not peace is war, obviously. But we're not talking about that war. We're actually talking about God of War now. So this news coming out of The Verge, God of War, segue. God of War is apparently in development, courtesy of Sony, and it's being developed as a live-action series, believe it or not, supposedly coming to Amazon Prime Video. So it's being led by Mark Fergus and Hawk Otsby, the producers behind The Expanse, and Rafe Judkins, who's also the executive producer on Wheel of Time, is also involved in the project. So this joins a host of other things that Sony's been doing to try and bring their properties to more consumers. We've already seen and or heard news in the past. Maybe we haven't talked about it at length on this show, about Twisted Metal, a live action Twisted Metal being in the works, and Anthony Mackie's supposed to be involved with that. There is and that's going to be live action, I said, on Peacock. Ghost of Tsushima movie is being made, which I'll actually be pretty interested to see how that goes. It's the director from John Wick. We have Last of Us being, once again, I believe it's a live action adaptation that's going to be coming out on HBO. And then we just had the Uncharted movie starring Tom Holland that came out to some, what we'll call mixed reviews. Yeah. So Matt, you're a Prime member. You got Amazon Prime. Are you going to be watching for this, or?
I mean, I may check it out if they go ahead and make a reality art joke about the slapping the Rock up with some powder or whatever. Get him on screen. Well, we'll check it out, boy.
Boy. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, because was it Chris Judge? Chris Judge is the voice. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a very distinct looking individual. Not at all saying that in a mean way. Like, I don't think you put him and Kratos side by side, you don't see it, but maybe that'd be great if the guy could explain, like,
pull it off. That'd be
if
cool.
if he's the voice, like, hell yeah, let's go. So
he's still a pretty big dude.
Yeah, exactly. So coming into more PlayStation news, more on the unfortunate side. So part of the or leading into prior to the PlayStation State of Play, which we'll talk about here in a moment after the break. The developers, Square Enix is producing under Luminous Productions. The game Forspoken was actually delayed. So the original release date was supposed to be March 25th, or excuse me, May 25th, right? May 25th, yes. And the developers put out a statement. They said, "We've made the decision to move the release date of Forspoken to October 11th, 2022. Our vision for this exciting new IP is to deliver a game world and hero that gamers across the globe will want to experience for years to come. So getting it right is extremely important to us. To that end, during the next few months, we will focus all of our efforts on polishing the game and can't wait for you all to experience Frey's journey this fall. Thank you for your understanding and continued support. We look forward to sharing more about Forspoken with you soon." So, another one bites the dust. Not saying it in that regard, but another one hits the roster of games seeing delay as we are rounding out the pandemic. So, Matt, is this one a surprise at all? Were you looking forward to grabbing this? I don't know, maybe on PC since it's PlayStation PC exclusive.
I would potentially check it out. I mean, it does, look intriguing from what I've seen thus far. As far as whether it's a surprise that it got pushed back, no, not really. It seems pretty standard anymore these days. They set these targets well in advance of, their actual progression and development. So if it means that they can take their time to polish it up and make sure it's a really solid production at the end of product at the end of production, I'm totally fine with that, especially if it helps to avoid, the dreaded crunch or whatever. So doesn't bother me.
I think it's good. I mean, I would much rather them go ahead and, as they said, come out with a really great polished product. We've seen examples, in Halo Infinite, and we could probably name a few others that saw delays that have come out to be excellent products. Heck,
rip co-op for Halo Infinite.
I think that was something that was meant to be on the show. We can talk about that towards the end here, but we will go ahead and take a quick break, and we will be back right after this.
Are you an industry insider? A professional interested in working with us? Maybe you just have an incredible gaming story to tell, but calling isn't your thing. Email us at gamingsgreatestgeneration@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
All right, gamers, we're back. So we're done talking about the news for the most part. We did go ahead and just this past week on the 9th, which was Wednesday, we had a PlayStation State of Play. So they announced it pretty short between announcement and when they actually aired it. But nonetheless, it was focused. It was about 20 minutes, and it was focused on a lot of more of the indie titles that they've got coming out with maybe one or two twists. So in the presentation, they went ahead and they had a myriad of announcements. They announced Exoprimal, one that Matt is going to talk about his affinity for here, coming out in 2023. They showed off some new footage for Ghostwire Tokyo. They went ahead and had a couple of new announcements in New Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Worlds Collide. Oh, no, sorry. That was Forspoken. They showed some more footage of that, some extended footage, which looked pretty good in my eyes. Gundam Evolution, being a free-to-play FPS that's coming later in 2022 to PS4, PS5. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection. Just a side note that one is not actually PlayStation exclusive. They just got the first airing of it. We just saw it also announced coming out on Xbox consoles. Gigabash, which I still don't know how to fully describe myself. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R. So I don't know why it says Battle R because it's not a Battle Royale, but anyways, it's a fighter. Trek Toyomi. They had Returnal Ascension update that they announced where they're adding co-op to the campaign as well as an Ascension mode, which basically sounds like, a tower horde mode, if you will, something to that effect. The Diofield Chronicle, as well as Valkyrie Elysium in 2022. So quite a few there that they kind of packed in with that 20-minute showcase. I'm going to say first and foremost, like I have been looking forward to, again, I have to sell myself on going ahead and getting Returnal. But in the past year or two, I really started to dig the roguelike and roguelite series, if you will, or genres. So Ascension, I feel, is probably going to eventually be up my alley, especially because it's done in a very AAA format out of Housemarque. And so them adding co-op, I find interesting. I'm just going to have to find somebody to play it with me. And then the tower. So the tower is technically called Tower of Syphilis. Yeah, sure. I think that's how it was pronounced.
Syphilis?
No, no. But yeah, the other thing that I, sadly enough, so I liked what I saw in Ghostwire Tokyo. Unfortunately, just me, I can't sell myself on that because it's made by, um, one of the Bethesda studios, and it's going to go ahead and make its way. Arcane, thank you. Or no, sorry, Ghostwire is made by the Japanese studio that is
Yeah, I can't
under
remember
Bethesda.
the name either. It's definitely not Arcane, but
No, it's not Arcane. That was a misspeak on my part. But nonetheless, pretty assuredly, that game is going to come over on the series consoles at some point, most likely to Game Pass. So, do I miss out for a year or so to get it later? Probably. And then the one that really, this is the saddest part, the one that really, really got me excited was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, because I just have such nostalgia for playing those games in the arcades. And even I think they had one or two that came out on the 360 that I loved playing with friends and with my wife in co-op. So yeah, they had a couple good announcements on there. Do I think that it packed the punch that they probably needed right about now? Or do they even need the punch? I don't know, because we just had Horizon Forbidden West come out to really great reviews. You've got a couple other things that are on the docket. So do they need it? I don't know, but I wish this one would have had a little more punch. Matt, what do you think of this PlayStation State of Play?
I mean, excuse me.
Tell us about that
Insofar
Exo
as
Primal.
insofar as the punch, I mean, maybe you did kind of neglect to include that Michael Pachter interview in the lineup for this week, but yeah, I mean, my main takeaways. I agree, Ghostwire is looking real cool. I also would have to kind of presume that it'll work its way on over to Game Pass whenever the exclusivity deal, is up. Excuse me as I die over here. But yeah, the main thing for me was that Exo Primal. I don't even know how interesting or good of a game it'll be. I thought the trailer was like, kind of utterly ridiculous, but also delightfully absurd. It starts up and I hear dinosaurs and I'm like, what are we talking about? And then you hit this like just ripped straight out of the Avengers or whatever. They're in this city and this portal opens up and just dinosaurs are raining out of the sky. And I'm going to be honest with you, I giggled like a madman for probably the next 30 seconds of that trailer after that. But yeah, it looks like the Anthem with dinosaurs, I guess, or something. I don't know, but be interesting, I guess, to see what that actually is.
Yeah, like I said offline, I related that a lot to what we've seen in the game preview that's out right now, Second Extinction. Maybe not dinosaurs coming out of portals or whatnot.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that part was kind of, especially the part about like, oh, like a weather prediction, like, oh, today it will rain, 10,000 dinosaurs. Like, I don't remember how they illustrated it exactly, but yeah,
It
you
gonna
basically
rain.
it's gonna rain. It's gonna rain dinosaurs. And you're just like, what? And then you see
Yeah.
this portal open and they just come down and you're like, oh, we're doing that. Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, I
Okay.
was just like, but all right, I didn't think I'd ever see that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So something kind of interesting. So yeah, does any of that sell you on a PS5 if you could possibly get your hands on it?
Yeah, I mean, probably nothing at that particular showcase. The Exo Primal thing. I guess we'll see what that ends up being. But I've already got plenty of interest in getting the PS5. So I don't know if any of that sells me. Specifically, if Ghostwire was maybe going to be ultimately always an exclusive, I'd maybe add that to the list of reasons. But as we've discussed, that's probably making its way on over. So yeah, I don't know. Nothing necessarily that compelling here.
All right, so here we
Not a
go with
terrible
the
show.
hot take. Here we go with the hot take, right?
Ooh.
Spartacus goes ahead and gets unveiled. They showcase all this stuff. We've already talked about how like the top tier is supposed to have PS5 demos because we want to charge for demos now.
Right, right.
But
It's been coming for a long time.
I would almost bet that Exo Primal is going to be one of those first titles that gets put in there as a playable demo.
Right. That seems very possible, yeah.
Yeah. So the other news, which on a bright note, I don't know when this one got announced, but I just came across it recently, and so we just wanted to say for those of you that do have a PlayStation console, be it a PS4 or a PS5, you do have an opportunity for some free entertainment. So on the PS4, right now until July 22nd, you can go ahead and redeem 3 months of Apple TV Plus on your PS4. After which it's going to renew at $5 a month. And for you lucky folks that have a PS5 already, that is actually up to a 6-month trial of the service. And once again, renewing at $5. You have to have a PlayStation account, and you also have to have an Apple ID, which, I mean, as far as the Apple ID, I've got one. I don't own any Apple products aside from, maybe a iPod that's forever old. But yeah, I might take advantage of this. I feel like I have enough subscriptions right now, so I don't necessarily want to take a chance of it. But Matt, have you messed around with Apple TV at all?
I have not, but I mean, I've heard good things about some of their programs, and they seem to get a lot of buzz. It's always hard for me to know what to guess there. You've got the Apple fanboys everywhere, sick of fanboys. So yeah, I don't know. It's I for a 6-month free trial, that is, I mean, why would you not take advantage, I guess? And then at $5 a month, if they're gonna stay with that for a while, that's not exactly a horrible price point. So yeah, I don't know. Could be worth checking out.
Yeah, it really kind of goes in line with what we've seen. That op-ed that came out of IGN a couple months ago at this point, saying, we're not going to see a console war in the future here. It's going to be a content war, and quite literally, that's what we're seeing now with Sony and PlayStation with this partnership with Apple TV. They've got all the stuff that we just talked about coming out in movies. You also have on the oh wow, I forgot my train of thought that I was going there. Nonetheless, you've got plenty of opportunities. Oh, I was going to say the AT&T deal, where you can get 6 months of NVIDIA GeForce Now. So there's a lot of companies that are vying for your time, and your time being hooked onto their particular screens.
Yep. That's what
That
it's all
being
about.
said, that being said, as Matt alluded to previously, which was just happenstance that I didn't include it in our show notes here. Michael Pachter, who is a industry analyst, went ahead and made a pretty raunchy prediction, as reported here on DualShockers a couple days ago. Said that PlayStation will not exist in 10 years. So we just said all this great stuff about PlayStation. They got all these great titles, all these great properties that are coming out in all sorts of media. Matt, why don't you take it away on this one and let us know kind of your thoughts on, Michael Pachter. Is he out to lunch on this one, or?
I mean, honestly, it's hard to know, man. I don't know if I necessarily see them going away entirely in a decade, but with the way everything is going right now, it's hard to even know what to really like envision for the industry in a decade. Um, as we've discussed, I mean, I think that locked bound, like dedicated hardware that you're buying for this stuff is probably going to start phasing out in some sense. So I mean, the PlayStation console may not exist anymore, but as far as like continuing development of games and stuff like that, I could still see them being like a major publisher or whatever of titles. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, his points about Microsoft having an extremely good foothold in what the market is becoming is definitely true, and I would agree with that. I just don't know what the end results of that are. I guess if his drawn implications are going to necessarily be accurate there, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I mean he's basing this claim pretty much solidly around Game Pass, right? Like he's saying that because Xbox went ahead and it's not too far-fetched. And I say that in the sense of like, look at what Netflix did with the streaming entertainment medium, if you will, right? Like they went ahead and they were the first out the gate, sending you, the kids at home won't remember this, but sending you DVDs through the mail, and you would go ahead and watch it for however many days and mail it back, and kind of the same thing. You paid them a subscription, if I recall, and you
Yeah, it
could
was
go ahead
a
and
monthly
yeah,
subscription.
and you
Yeah.
could send back and forth as many as you wanted, taking advantage of the mail system. Advantage not in a negative context, but making full use of it. And that helps set them off as the juggernaut that basically doomed Blockbuster. Well, not solely. Blockbuster had their own stuff going on, but had a huge nail in that coffin. And now Pachter is basically making a similar comparison by saying that because Game Pass is so far out ahead of the competition vis-a-vis game subscription services, and we don't get to see the public numbers very often insofar as subscribers on Game Pass. But
Yeah.
the last one that came out, I believe, said they were somewhere close to 30 million subscribers. It might have been like 25 or 28, if I recall. But it's on the up and up. Whereas by comparison, PlayStation Now, which is PlayStation's subscription service, last I saw was, I think, barely into the single digit millions. And I can attest to that. I'm a subscriber, but quite frankly, the only reason I subscribed to it was because of the price point that I got in at. So it leaves something to be desired. Now, if they go ahead and they come out swinging with Spartacus and they say, hey, you know what? You now do have the option to download all those back compat titles that you've wanted to go ahead and utilize instead of streaming them. I think that alone will be a pretty good contention piece, as well as the price point. I think the price point is really going to matter, because if you can't sell the fan base on what you currently have available between PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, I mean, we talked about it last episode, the one between Mark and I, so you didn't get to have a piece in there, Matt. As you recall, or what you can recall of the discussion, like, what do you think about Spartacus and what's rumored to be the price points coming out? Do you think it's actually going to be competitive or be dead on arrival?
That's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, with the listed price points, they're maybe going to have a hard time with that, unless it is just an overwhelming value. Obviously, if you're essentially increasing the cost of what you're already paying for right now or whatever with their new system, so it's I guess it's going to be the push to really sell you on the higher tier subscription plans, but hopefully to make those, an overwhelming value where you're not feeling gypped or whatever, because that lowest tier is, you're essentially paying more for what you're already, paying and getting now. Time will tell, but could be a risky proposition for them.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out. I won't go into detail on it again. I think I was pretty verbose on the last episode about my feelings about how PlayStation is handling this. And I mean, Pachter, I don't have a record in front of us as far as like the times that he's predicted something and been right versus wrong. Excuse me, but I mean, he is an analyst, and he is noted as one who usually has an eye on the prize, but albeit more in the financial sphere of things. So him making a prediction that an entire brand within a company isn't going to exist anymore in 10 years, we'll see. I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch. But that being said, we're going to stretch this episode out a little bit more, and we'll be back right after this.
Want to contribute to the show? Maybe you want to try your chances at a question being aired? Give us a call at 702-690-9292, and you might find yourself so lucky.
All right, gamers, and we are back. So we're done with pretty much all the formality segment of the episode, but wait. That sound can only mean one thing. It's time for Release Radar. So for those that are just playing catch-up, Release Radar is where we go ahead and talk on the show about the games that are going to be coming up roughly in the near future, probably the next week or so. And so the ones that maybe you want to keep an eye out for. So as of today, let's see, where are we? We've got Grand Theft Auto 5 that's going to be coming out on, as we said, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles on March 15th. Phantom Breaker Omnia on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch on March 15th. The Cruel King and the and The Great Hero. Sorry, I got tripped up there. Coming out PlayStation 4 and Switch on March 15th. Paradise Killer coming out on March 16th to PlayStation 5, 4, Xbox Series consoles, and Xbox One. And then we have Tunic coming out on the Series consoles and Xbox One and PC on March 16th, as well as, yeah, I guess we can round it out with the 17th. So March 17th, you've got Anno Mutationum. Sure. Coming out PlayStation 4 and PC. Monster Energy Supercross 5 coming out PlayStation 5, 4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC. Persona 5 Arena Ultimax coming out on PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC. As well as Shredders going to be coming out on Xbox Series consoles and PC on March 17th. Woo! Matt, what on all that list? I mean, dude, when we talk about it's going to be a good year for games. That may not hit everybody and their taste buds, but I'll tell you what, there's somebody out there that's going, man, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, or someone else is going out there and going, yeah, that GTA 5, probably a lot of folks with GTA 5. Shoot, I didn't even think you were going to bite off on that. But yeah, which ones of that list there are you looking forward to coming out?
So yeah, I mean, probably get by the most on GTA 5, and then Tunic. I know that you're excited for that one. I'm kind of curious about checking that one out myself. So
cool, short list, got it.
yeah,
yeah. So for me, I'll take a look at it. I mean, I want to double check. Being fortunate that I do have the PS5, I'm pretty sure I did get GTA 5 online for free. So if it's $10 to go ahead and get the upgraded story and everything, and get to play through that, at least in my opinion, GTA has always been mainly associated with PlayStation. So I wouldn't mind going ahead and checking it out and seeing how that looks on the OLED. Throwing it up there in whatever fidelity mode. Tunic, yeah, dude, I've seen Tunic for like 3 years now. So that's one. Oh, Leo, why is that taking so long to come out? Well, because it's made by a single dude. So I think by that alone, I have a lot of regard and respect for the title, and I want to see what's going to come of that. That is honestly probably, looking at the dates here, we said that ID at Xbox showcase is going to be on March 16th, and Tunic is supposed to release March 16th.
Yeah.
Would not be surprised if that is like the drop right there. And they're like, by the way, you can download it now.
Right. Yeah.
Most likely coming out on Game Pass, I would imagine. So
That would be pretty cool.
yeah, I'm almost 100% on that one. And Shredders. So for those that haven't kept up with Shredders, that is at least as of right now, the Xbox exclusive title that is all about snowboarding. So think Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk snowboarder.
Yeah, something like that to that effect. I'm trying to think of they had a snowboarding game back when. Was it Ant?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a few. I don't remember all the names.
But I mean, I looked at it. This one's made by Slow Punch, I want to say. But nonetheless, I looked at it. I've seen the trailers for it at least twice now, and I kind of dig it. Maybe it's because I live in Vegas in the desert, but yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing what happened. Cool. So with that, we'll roll into kind of what we've been doing, what we've been playing, and how we usually wrap up the show. So I'm gonna pass the mic yet again back to you, Mr. Mow Them Down. Let the people know what you've been doing, what you've been playing, and maybe where they can not find you.
Yeah, you can always find me on Xbox. You can hit me up by email. But yeah, lately I've been getting my feet wet very slightly, just dipping the toes into the water of Elden Ring. Pick that up, waiting to get my ass kicked in that game over and over and over. Did download and boot up the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game. Pretty slick presentation so far. The gameplay itself, I'm waiting to see how that develops as far as the action goes. Thus far, actually, pretty impressed with that one. Awesome soundtrack.
All right, cool. So as for myself, known as Ice on all things gaming social media, I went ahead, as I mentioned previously in the show, I got to play through Kirby and the Forgotten Lands demo, which, I mean, demo, not game necessarily, but a slice. And I like what I saw, and I'll probably go ahead and pick that up. Otherwise, got my Spider-Man attire here in honor of I am 95% complete with the Spider-Man PS5 remaster. I've got all the trophies for like the enhanced PS5 remaster version, and literally I am 4 trophies from the platinum. Once I go ahead and I get into the DLC, that should kind of solidify that. So what I'm thinking gameplay wise is I'm going to roll, and I've done a couple plays, a couple levels with the wifey playing Sackboy: A Big Adventure, because that's just a fun friggin' game. So we like playing that together. But so probably the plan going forward here in the near future, because I have to somehow align all these things, is finish out Spider-Man PS5, probably go straight into Miles Morales, because I've heard nothing but great things of that game. So a smaller game, gameplay-wise, as I understand it, but nonetheless, I'll go ahead and I'll probably thoroughly enjoy it. And then I have to make the conscious decision to get back into Horizon Zero Dawn. Not that it's a bad game, but I am saying the conscious decision because I feel like if I do that, I'm going to inevitably want to roll straight into Forbidden West. So that's kind of the frustration I'm going to be dealing with there. Because again, you got the backlog, like what's gonna go next. But we also had an opportunity, right? We played a little bit, I want to say, since last recording. We did some Rocket League, maybe tried Sea of Thieves, and we got in a little too early to partake in the next adventure. We're sitting there playing, and it's like, okay, well, when's the next adventure? Oh, 3 weeks. What? Yeah. So maybe Rare can go ahead and have a bit more consistency.
That's some bad intel there, me matey.
Yeah, but anywho, so that's it for episode 30 of Gaming's Greatest Generation. Remember to go ahead and hit that thumbs up and like the show. Feel free to subscribe if you have an opportunity to do so on your platform of choice. By all means, refer a friend, because we'd love to get more eyes and ears on the podcast. If for nothing else, just to let us know how we're doing. Feel free to comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, or go ahead and, as I said, just share this out, right? Because we would love to go ahead and get to as many ears as possible. And by all means, the more input we have, the better we can make the show. So that's going to be it for episode 30, folks. We'll catch you next week. And remember, Gaming's Greatest Generation is the one you guys are a part of.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming's Greatest Generation podcast. We hope you enjoyed your time with us today. If you have any feedback for the show or would like to contribute ideas, feel free to call 702-690-9292 or email us at gamingsgreatestgeneration@gmail.com. You can also join the Discord community by following the link in the show notes.